Hi everyone, I'm Billy No Mates and this is hashtag Let's Get Awkward. And today is awkward as we'll be looking at JK Rowling and her comments towards transgenders. It is going to be personally awkward for me as this woman I've admired deeply. I was 10 years old, sitting on the carpet ready for book time with the teacher, and they pulled out Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I was amazed by the cover. It was Harry in front of a train and a wonderful purple smoke coming out of it. And from the first sentence, I was hooked. Over the days, the entire class was transfixed by the magical journey we went on. I mean, it was amazing how the rest of the class behaved. And this was a class of about 30, and about 10 of them loved beating me up, while the others would either join in or sit down and watch. So for 30 minutes, I had peace and quiet. They were angels. Later on, I went home and I told my mum about the books, and she got the second one, then the third, and then she got me every single book as they came out, which we actually did. We also went to the cinema to see the movies, and my mum loved the books as well, despite being Christian, and people were like, "You should be reading that," and she's like, "No, I like it." As I got to reading them, it took me to a nice, wonderful world where I got to go on a journey where anything was possible. I was reading about a boy, Harry, who was misunderstood. He was locked in a cupboard by his family, treated like a freak, and then to be swooped away into a magical world where he felt like an outsider as he had no knowledge of the magical world, and a lot of people like to, remind him of that. And I felt safe making this journey. It gave me hope for myself and helped me leave my problems behind, as well as that feeling anything is possible, you cannot be oppressed. But cut it short, as explaining my feelings, like asking me how a camera works, it won't end well. So in short, the books helped me a lot, and now here we are with a string of tweets and a long blog. It is so fucking long. It's 6 pages, so I will be taking bits out and I will try my best to discuss them without taking it out of its contents. If you do want to read the entire thing, it is on JK Rowling's website. But like I said, it is a very, very long read. And it does give you a headache at the end of the day. So here we go. The first few paragraphs are about why she does this, etc. And it leads to her reasons. Her first reason explains about her charitable trusts, which are female based and medical research into MS. She puts, "It's been clear to me for a while that the new trans activism is having, or is likely to have, if all its demands are met, a significant impact on many of the cause I support because it's pushing to erode the legal definition of sex and replace it with gender." Change happens all the time. The legal definition of marriage has been changed, and people who were against it said LGBT plus were eroding their idea of marriage. We're not. Marriage was defined and never changed, and that definition was an opinion of some hateful people at the time. Second reason speaks about being an ex-teacher and founder of a children's charity, which gives her an interest in education and safeguarding, with concerns about the effects of trans rights movements will have on both. We need trans education in schools just as much as the rest of the LGBT plus. Lack of knowledge leads to ignorance, which results in tweets with contents that scream, "I have no idea what I'm talking about and my ego is too big to admit it." The fourth, we ask them in the third, we're not doing all the reasons, we're just doing a few of them. The fourth is frustrating to read as JK is concerned about the huge explosion of young women wishing to transition and the increasing numbers of those wanting to detransition. She gives the dangerous idea that women became transgender as they were driven by homophobia either by society or in their families. To start with, 1 to 2% decide to transition back to their original gender, and even if they did, there is nothing wrong with that. Finding who you are gender wise, or for non binaries, non gender wise, is a big journey. And even if it turns out, that's not you, you've still had to go on that journey to find out who you were. And without that journey, you may not have come to an accepting conclusion of yourself. Secondly, saying a trans man or men are only trans men is because of homophobic bullying is hateful, ignorant, and denying their right to exist for who they are. Trans men are men. Trans women are women. We were just made differently. There does go on to another part where she said, if I'd been born 30 years later, I too might have tried to transition. The allure of escaping womanhood would have been huge. I struggled with severe OCD as a teenager. If I'd found community and sympathy online that I couldn't find in my immediate environment, I believe I could have been persuaded to turn myself into the son my father had openly said he'd preferred. This really does disturb me greatly, a lot, humongous. She makes it sound that transgender men are escaping womanhood as they're not strong enough to cope. That is not the case. I was born in the wrong body and I had known since I was little. And instead of exploring what it was or what I was experiencing, I ploughed myself into womanhood. Hair, makeup, clothes. I did it in a way that other people told me is, this is what a woman looks like. And then they told me how to act and what to say. And it was really frustrating. And it just made me feel worse because I was being something I wasn't. I didn't feel beautiful. I felt like Frankenstein's monster. If God knitted me in my mother's womb, then he must have been pissed out of his head. I mean, the moment my breast came, I felt like cutting them off, and sometimes I still do. I spend time gazing into a mirror, rubbing my soft cheeks, hoping for facial hair to magically appear as well as other things. I mean, I am sorry about JK's father, and, he didn't accept her as a daughter. That is something I can never understand. But to say, oh, I'll just turn into a man to be the son he wanted, screams ignorance, but also heartbreak. It must have been hard for her to be put in that situation. Yet to throw a statement like that is hurtful to transgenders, as it makes it sound like we're escaping a problem we do not wish to address. No, we're transitioning because we are addressing a problem and we're going to do it. We're going to face it head on. I've heard things similar to this, like when I came to accept my sexuality, a friend of a family thought I was only attracted to women because I was emotionally and physically abused by my former male fiance. It was not true then, it's still not true now, and if it was true, then why would I be transitioning into a man if I hated men? I don't hate men. To put trans aside for a moment, I meant to say this, I'm not saying being a woman is easy. The transition from girl to a woman is immense. I went through it and watched others as well, like JK Rowling. They found out who they were as women, and some gave the middle finger to the so-called rules of womanhood. Some didn't want marriage and kids, but others did. Some wanted high-end careers, while others wanted to get any job and use the money they made to enjoy life. Like a friend I used to have, she got what she called an easy, simple job for her to do. So it didn't take much time and effort, but she worked overtime, etc., saved up the pennies, and then she would go away for a few months to another country. She saved up everything she had just so she can go out. She wasn't bothered about having a career, she just wanted to explore and travel and get to learn other things along the way. And then there are some women like JK use their creative sides and become writers, painters. The list goes on what they wanted and worked for it. My tattooist, she is a great artist and a great tattooist. She comes up with brilliant designs that I love. I mean, I got her to design tattoos for me, and she's never, ever failed me. She is wonderful and has a wonderful mind. Now back to the 6-page essay, if you could call it that. Looking at another paragraph is difficult, as it says 60 to 90% of gender dysphoric teens will grow out of it. Once again, not true. It's between less than 1% and the highest is 5%. So about excuse me, 0.58 to 5%. She makes remarks that the GRC, or the Gender Recognition Certificate, and how a man who intends to have no surgery or hormones can get one and be a woman in the eyes of the law. This isn't true. I've excuse me, looked it up, and I'm going to be reading out the 2 routes you can go to. There is another one, but this one is for UK. The standard route, you have to be 18 or over. You've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, discomfort with your birth gender. This is also called gender identity disorder, gender incongruence, or transsexualism. You lived in your acquired gender for 2 years. You intend to live in your acquired gender for the rest of your life. So a man can't just go, I'm going to be this for so long, because you've just declared that you are going to be this gender for the rest of your life. There is an alternative route. It is similar to the standard, but I'll go over it again. You're 18 or over. You've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria or had surgery to change your sexual characteristics. You've lived in England, Wales, Northern Ireland, or Scotland most of the time. You intend to live in your acquired gender for the rest of your life. You're in or have been in a protected marriage or protected civil partnership before 10th of December 2014, 16th December 2014 for Scottish marriages and civil partnerships. You've lived in your acquired gender for at least 6 years before 10th of December 2014, 16th of December 2014 for Scottish marriages and civil partnerships. And go through all that paperwork and everything. You have to cough up £140, and then it goes to a gender panel. So even if you did have all the materials, you had the money to waste, you have to go through a gender panel, and if they say no, then you do not get it. So that seems to be a lot of hard work just for one man to be recognised as a female for so long, to apparently sexually assault a woman in the women's bathroom because being transgender makes it legal. It doesn't. It is true a trans woman doesn't have to have hormones or surgery, but they still need medical reports and doctors, etc., with an explanation of why they are taking this path. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, I have gone through this, I've read the 6 pages, and after writing about the GRC, I felt I just had to stop. I can't keep going through each part of this essay and explain how wrong it is. I just feel betrayed. If this was a woman I looked up to for so many years. I saw her donate money to causes. She made Dumbledore gay. She was up for LGBT rights, but now it just turns out to be LGB. And it's just harmful. It's like someone wrote stupid on a hammer and hit me with it. It feels like this whole J started off with JK hitting a nail in someone's hand and said, "No, I didn't," and put another in while doing so. She says she's not transphobic, yet she gives a string of tweets, has a midlife moment mistake, which I don't believe in the first few paragraphs that she explains in. And then she gives an essay that says, I'm uneducated. I'm not educated in this matter, despite saying multiple times I am. She just JK really needs to look properly. She says she studied this, yet she still writes in the view of a transgender. Well, all transgenders activism have a vile agenda to convert people and destroy women. Trans women want one thing: to be accepted as women, just as trans men want to be accepted as men. We are not on a mission to destroy the great works of women, what they've done over the centuries, nor discredit it. We wanted to be recognised for who we are, and that we were also there making the history. The happy part is the cast of Harry Potter have stood up for transgenders, such as, well, this is the list I've got so far: Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, Eddie Redmayne, if you pronounce that, Katie Long. If I've got your name wrong, I am sorry. Then there's Bonnie Wright, Ivana Lynch, and Chris Rankin. And that is amazing how JK wrote The Order of the Phoenix, where Harry Potter created Dumbledore's army to rebel against the minister for meddling in things he clearly doesn't understand and denying the truth. And now here we are with the cast rebelling against their creator because she is meddling in things she clearly doesn't understand and is denying the truth. I can't wait till she has a moment like Cornelia Fudge at the end of Order of the Phoenix, where she is dumbstruck with a face of, shit, I was wrong. Though hopefully her future will not go the same way as Cornelius Fudge. She has a brilliant mind, and she does the right thing, which is admit you don't know anything about transgenders and you want to be educated by actual transgenders. Meet up with them, speak with them. Don't just write in an essay you claim to have met them. And we hopefully won't lose, out on a brilliant mind. I mean, she has a brilliant mind, she can put it for good, but at the moment she's just using it for shite. And I'm not willing to allow her great work to overshadow her behaviour, because that would just make me an enabler, ignoring the harm she does. And we've all seen what happens. What happens when we do all that? What happens when we ignore signs or behaviours or things being said? There have been serious offences, activities, etc. of people ignoring behaviours. But this has been a long and hard podcast, so we need some happiness. In the description is a link to a video about a dog named Nubby, and it is heart-meltingly adorable, so please enjoy. I've been Billy No Mates, and if you want to know more about trans non-binary, then please visit mermaidsuk.org.uk. We're not sponsored by them, we just love mermaids. And this is we've just spoken about an author who created a magical world. Yeah, we're going to talk about mermaids as well. We'll see you all next week on #Let'sGetAwkward. Have a good week and hopefully stay safe.